Hello everybody and welcome to our recording on Jainism, and in conversation with me today is Himanshu. Hi Himanshu.
Hi Claire, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So Himanshu and I met almost 2 years ago, and Himanshu is a member of B&D SACRE. But what else do you do, Himanshu? Because you do a lot.
Okay, so I am an IT consultant and a professional skills trainer by profession, which means I train people on things like project management and business analysis and so and so. But community-wise, I am the chair of Barking and Dagenham Faith Forum. I am very heavily involved in community work through Rotary clubs in Barking and in Stratford. As you can see, I'm just coming out of the meeting right now. I am governor at Gascoigne Primary, and I'm a parent as well. My children both go to schools here in the borough.
That's wonderful. And I've had the delight of going along to Barking and Dagenham Faith Forum that you lead very well. And that's a growing work, actually, that's really important for schools because it's bringing people together and allowing people within Barking and Dagenham to learn more about each other. So today we want to learn more about Jainism, because I know many of the teachers in our primary and schools don't know an awful lot about Jainism. So Himanshu, what does it mean to be a Jain person?
Well, to me, the first thing that comes to mind, being Jain is to lead a simple life. A life where you live in harmony with each other. I mean, one of the very famous saying that we have, and it's about, I think, 2,600-year-old saying in an ancient language called Prakrit. It says, Parasparo Graho Jivanam, which means all life is interdependent. And we try to live that way.
Fantastic. I think that really does sum up everything that I've learned, and I'm definitely not an expert in Jainism. So it's great that you're here. So are you born a Jain? Do people convert? How do you become a Jain?
Yes. To put it very simply, the day you start believing in Jain virtues, you become a Jain. There is no ceremony, there is no special things that you have to do. If you believe in your heart the teachings, then you are a Jain. That's as simple as that. I was born a Jain, and I have tried to live a life by keeping those virtues as in my mind.
So, like Sikhism, you find in all over the world, but we find in a particular area a lot of Sikhs in sort of northern India to Pakistan area. Is anything similar like that for Jainism, or did it develop somewhere specific?
Right. So, see, Jainism is an ancient religion. I mean, I think it is about 5,000 years old. And again, opinions are divided about it. But I believe that Hinduism and Jainism. So again, just digressing a little bit, Hinduism as a name of a religion only came about when we had the British colonial rule in India. Before that, there was no religion known as Hinduism, but there was that way of life, and it used to be called Shramanic way of life, and it used so it was sorry, not Shramanic, Brahmanic way of life. It was, and so this Shramanic way of life, which kind of then converted into Jainism, and then Buddhism came out of it eventually. So Shramanic and Brahmanic way of lives, these are there since about 5,000 years ago, we find hard evidence that these two were the only two ways of life in the inscriptions left by King Ashoka the Great, which are still there for everyone to see. There are these rock edicts all around India and parts of Pakistan. So we know that these two are ancient. Now, so Jainism started from there, and then it kind of spread across India. Now, you would find it very difficult to go in a city in India and not find a Jain settlement or a Jain temple. Yeah, but primarily in the states of Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, which is the central province, Uttar Pradesh. So you'll find lots and lots of Jains over there. And then in southern India, you will find lots of Jains in the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. And so it's kind of pan, but we are a very small community. I think we'll probably be only about 460,000, no, about 500,000 Jains in India. That's or across the globe, really.
That's still a huge number of people, isn't it? It's we sometimes don't realize how big something is just because we haven't come across it. And I'm really glad that you talked about that ancient tradition, because what I know of Jain writings is it going back as far as we have of knowledge of sort of religious writings about a way of life and how to practice life. So we often talk about Dharma, don't we, and this approach to life rather than religion. Religion's a real Western word that is also trying to have that idea of how you live your life well. But for teachers, it's good to know that word Dharma, because I think that's more, I think it's the way your faith and others would talk about how you practice it, isn't it?
That's right, yes. And as I was saying, Dharma, or the way of life. So there were two back then in India. I mean, there was this school of thought that used to think that we need to live life in a very simple way. While there is this other school of life which used to believe in karma and doing good, but yet enjoying life as they could. So this group of or this school of thought later on became Hinduism as we know it today, and then the other one came to be known as Jainism. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Brilliant. So you've mentioned about temples. I mean, there are massive temples in India, Jain temples, but the only one I've ever visited is in Leicester, I think. I don't think I've ever been to another Jain temple. But tell us a little bit about temples and what would happen when people gather together at a Jain temple.
Right. So worship in Jainism is a very personal thing. Yeah, there will be communal prayers, but if I went to a temple, I could do my own prayers, and but you talked about temple in Leicester. Yeah, it's a very beautiful temple. If you go inside and you see all those pillars, and I invite you to visit the temple in Potter's Bar. I think it is one of the most beautiful temples that I have seen anywhere. And we have some very beautiful temples. There is another very beautiful temple in Antwerp in Europe. In our backyard in Barking and Dagenham, there is a proposed temple in Heathway. So we have purchased the property. We just are kind of working to get all the permissions and do enough fundraising to get the
yeah,
temple.
there's a journey and a half, isn't it? Converting one building into another. Oh, we really look forward to that. That will be so exciting. Because Potter's Bar isn't way away, is it? But it's still a bit of a drive
Yes,
for us here.
at least 45 minutes on a good day. And if M25 is blocked, then
it can be a lot longer. And
yes.
thank you for pointing out, because I think the teachers will hear in what you're saying some similarities between sort of Hindu dharmic practices, i.e. a home shrine and family prayers and rituals and meditation, that sometimes in the same way as Muslim men will go to mosque, or that, I don't know, Christians will go to church, that in Hinduism, you can go to the temple, but it's not better than doing it at home. You know, it's actually doing it, and yeah, the practice is what's important.
See, as I said, I mean, it's a very personal thing. You know, it's a relationship between you and your God rather than anything else. And I mean, yes, you go to temples because when you go to temples, you do some communal worship, you get to meet other people and everything else. But you could very well do your worship at home.
Which brings us on to holy books. So, Himanshu, tell us about Jain holy books.
Yes. So, again, I mean, Jainism is an ancient religion like Hinduism, and it has developed over time. So there isn't one book that we can call that, okay, yes, this is the go-to book when you want to understand Jainism, or when you want to understand, let's say, Hinduism even. Although in, I think, early 1st century AD, and now I'm talking from what the scholars say, right? I'm not kind of debating the stories here, but around 1st century, 2nd century AD, Gita was written. Yeah, and just around at that same time, there was a book written in Jainism. It's called Tattvat Sutra, or translated to English, it's called That Which Is. So that book is generally considered as an acceptable holy book in Jainism by all 4 different sects of Jainism. And I have that book here.
You've got it. Yeah, we're going to show you now. Yeah. So here it is.
Yes.
That Which Is.
That Which Is. It's a very, I mean, it's a very small book. Small as in, I mean, if you just look at the verses, probably be about 10 pages. Okay. But those 10 pages are so deep that all this book has is explanations. Yeah, and explanations and commentary to how to understand those 10 pages or 10 pages worth of verses. So
it is about living this very simple life. But before we talk about what that means in terms of your practice and choices, can you talk to us a little bit about sort of Jain theology? What is the belief about God? You've mentioned about Hindu dharmic sort of karma and, you know, reincarnation being a big force within that thinking. What would it be in Jainism?
So we don't believe in a God in terms of Jainism. We don't think that there is a personal God out there who's sort of looking after you. We think, and we believe in reincarnation, just like Hinduism, but we also believe in making our own decisions, which should be which are right and which will not harm anyone else, even in thought. We shouldn't think of harming other people, be it human beings or animals or even plants that way. So, but we do believe in 24 godlike people who have attained that godlike stature because of the way they led their life, because of the deeds that they did in their lifetime.
So a bit like saints, maybe, in Christianity?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And so here is Lord Rishabdev, who is the first Tirthankar, or loosely translated into English is called Ford Maker. So he is considered to be the founder of Jainism all those years ago. And there are sort of evidences that he was there at the time of Indus Valley civilization as well, and he taught people how to farm, and that's why his symbol is the bull.
Okay.
Yes.
I love it. There's always a reason, aren't there, to these links? When you know, it all makes sense. Brilliant. And in terms of then, you've talked about living a simple life, making sure that you don't harm others. So how does that carry on into your life? Are you vegetarian like many sort of Hindu people will be, or Sikh people?
Yes. So let me talk about the three principles. Yeah. The three principles, very simple three principles, are non-violence, which is where vegetarianism comes from. All Jains are vegetarian, or at least they are supposed to be vegetarian. Again, I mean, I'm not saying that they have to be. Non-violence means that not harming your fellow human being or any other creature, be it animals or nature generally. Then the second one is non-materialism, which means don't get attached to, or too much attached to things. Lead a simple life. Don't hoard stuff. Don't keep more than what is required for yourself. And that does not mean that you don't save, or you don't, or you don't have ambitions in life. So that shouldn't mean that. But yes, you don't need to kind of be overpowered by that feeling. And then the third one is a non-absolutism. And I think that's the most important one in today's context. Non-absolutism simply means that mine is not the only version of truth. There can be other facets. There can be other truths as well. There can be other points of views. And we just need to look at things from all these different points of views, and just accept that, yes, there will be differences. There will be people with different opinions. We just have to accept them.
Lovely. That's brilliant. That's a really, really good summary of teachers, really big books, and a lot of writing. So thank you. I suppose also we were thinking about sort of, we mentioned reincarnation there. So would a Jain believe in the soul as in the same sense, Atam, like Hinduism, or is it different? Because I always think that's the difference with Buddhism, where Buddhism talks about rebirth and Hinduism talks about reincarnation, and Sikhism actually reincarnation. And it's really about the soul, whereas Buddhists don't believe in a soul. So they believe in rebirth, no soul, whereas Hindus believe in a soul, Sikhs believe in a soul that gets reborn through reincarnation.
Yes, we do believe in souls, and that the souls will get reincarnated. But what we try to do is try that the souls get out of this cycle of rebirth and attain salvation. Mm-hmm. In Sanskrit or in Hindi, the word is called moksha. Moksha means attaining salvation or attaining liberation from this cycle of birth and rebirth, and that is done through purity of the deeds that you do in this life. So that's why lead a simple life, do as much good as you can do for others. Do not harm, or at least as much as possible, don't harm anyone. So that's
And this brings us on to a little bit of ecology, really, and how sort of, I suppose, that's come onto people's radar really over the last maybe 10 years more and more, with pollution and the world changing. But this has been a message that Jains have been speaking and
Yes.
encouraging people with for thousands of years, I would say.
It is, and you say that it has come into focus for last 10 years, but 30 years ago, or more than 30 years ago now, we at the Institute of Jainology published a Jain declaration on nature, and that was at the time, and it's this small little declaration. If
Yeah.
I think it's visible. It's this small little declaration. This was at the time unveiled by His Royal Highness Prince Philip, and this was so we have been talking about taking care of nature, being kind, making sure that that we don't kind of leave a version of Earth which is to our descendants, which is not suitable, or which is kind of not. So we have been talking about this for a long time. I'll be happy to present with some copies of this declaration to you,
Thank
Claire,
you.
when we can. Yeah.
Wonderful. I suppose as well for the teachers, I'm going to say in terms of the sort of UK Jain population, thinking about 25 to 30,000 people.
Okay, I'm very glad you asked the question. So in the last census, and I'm talking about census because this is the census time going on. In the last census, the counting, when the counting finished, the Jains were about 20,000. But that was generally because there was no tick box that said Jainism. So most of our population just ticked Hinduism because, you know, they thought that, yes, that's the thing to do. So this year, in fact, for the last 2 years, we have been running a very strong campaign to, you know, tick other and type Jain. In fact, the campaign is called Tick Other and Write Jain. In fact, this Saturday we had a conference where we were kind of raising awareness about that. From Monday you will start getting the census forms, tick other and write Jain, so that we think at this time there are about 65,000 Jains.
Wow, that's a lot more.
A lot more, and we know this because there are 33 Jain organizations which are part or which are affiliated with Institute of Jainology in the UK. And they have done their independent, you know, how many people are members of those organizations and how many people are there in their families. So that figure has come to about 65,000. So we are really hoping that even if some people did not tick other and write Jain, we will still get to about 50,000, so that, you know, BBC will then start doing Jain programming, or at least take hospitals will get the right food that we or chaplaincy and all of these different policy making
flow on through, don't they?
Yes.
Those numbers, picking them up, really important. Now the final thing, because we're into our last couple of minutes, you had a couple of books that you thought teachers might be interested in. So if teachers wanted to start using some stories from sort of Jainism or discovering Jainism, show us what your recommendation.
Sure. So I've got these two books. One of them is called Jain Tales. Yeah. And this is part of this series called Learn Jainism. And then there is another one which is being updated at the moment, but it's called Discover Jainism. Now, both these books are published by the Institute of Jainology, and a number of these resources are there on learnjainism.org as well. but again, that site is being redone because recently some technology changes have happened, and some of the puzzles and any other things that we had there cannot be used anymore. But I will be very happy to make these resources available to schools should they be interested.
That's fantastic. Well, would you believe we have talked for over 25 minutes? Himanshu and I thought we'd do 20 minutes, but
yes.
Of course, this tester has just opened a door, really.
Yes.
And what we hope is that over the next year or so, Himanshu can come and do some more things with us as teachers. And today is really just a starter. So you've only got about 4 minutes left in this workshop. And what I'd love you to do is to go and have a look at the website Himanshu mentioned. Could you say that address again, Himanshu?
Yes, I'll actually give a couple of addresses. The first one for kids or for children is learnjainism.org. But I also invite you to look at another resource that we have developed here in the UK. It's called Jnpedia.org. Now, Jnpedia.org is a collection of articles and manuscripts which were kept in our museums here. So what we've done is we've asked museums like the Bodleian Library or V&A Museum here, or the British Museum, or the Wellcome Trust. So they had these manuscripts in their vaults. So we took those manuscripts, we've had them digitized, preserved, gave it back to the original owners. But then after that, we've had them transliterated, translated, and made some context or put some context around those manuscripts. So those, there are about 92 different manuscripts which are on Jnpedia.org, along with some articles. Again, when you look at those, please see that this is all work in progress. We are slowly putting in more manuscripts, more articles as we kind of go along. But I'm very happy to report that Jainpedia attracts about 500,000 visitors globally, not from India, but from UK and the US, from people who are studying Jainism, whether it is at SOAS or the University of Oxford or at other places. And it is it is slowly becoming the go-to resource for scholars of Jainism. So I invite you to visit these two websites.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Himanshu. And if you've got any time before I call you back, then you can talk about to one another what you've learnt, what you've remembered from what Himanshu has said, and begin to think how you could include the study of Jainism within children learning about religions and worldviews. So thank you very much, Himanshu. It's been a delight. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Pleasure. Thank you.